All right, so this video is for people who were absent for most of the lab of the mass change lab, or if you just got here, something like that. If you don't know how to do some part of the mass change lab, then you should fast forward this video to whatever part you're having trouble with, as I intend to explain every part in detail that we've done up to so far. So first, you'll go into Schoology, click on your chemistry class, and we are now in Unit 1, so you will click here, and this is the mass change lab. So this is where you can look and see what the directions were for the lab if you did not get to see them. So click on the directions, open that up, and you can see the directions for each part of the lab. So when it asks you to describe what happened and you weren't here or you don't remember, this is telling you what you did. Here we pulled apart the steel wool. Here for station 3, we mixed two chemicals and we actually saw it get cloudy, right? That's part of the results there. So all of that. Here is what your data table should look like. So first thing you need to do is you need to make this data table. You can actually draw it out just like this on a piece of paper. You will need more rows though. And so this is all your data that you will put in. And if you were not here when we did the lab, then you will need the sample data. So you'll need to go back out of here to the main folder, click on Lab Report and Mass Change, and scroll down. You see sample data here. Click on this, open the sample data, and this is the sample data. This sample data is good compared or combined with the directions on the lab that I just showed you earlier. You should be able to read that, look at this data, and figure out all the things that happened. Only thing that's not in here, right here, is that part 3. When you mix the two clear liquids, it did turn white and cloudy. So you should mention that in your notes and observations part on your data table that you have made. And then part 4, it says right here what happened. Part 5. Here also the sugar did dissolve, so you saw that. And then part 6, as the tablet dissolved in the water, you saw this happening as well. So what I've just said and what I've pointed out should give you enough information to actually do the observations in the notes part of that data table that I just showed you should make earlier. Now, once you have that data table all done, that is going to be inputted into this lab report assignment. So again, we're here at the lab report mass change, and up here you'll see my document. So when you click on my document, you're going to see something like this come up, okay? And you're going to put that big data table that you just made, you're going to put it in here. But how do you put it in here? I actually want you to make the data table here. So right here I give you directions on how to do it, but real quick, click where you want the data table to go, click Insert, Table, and then select the size of your table. You're probably going to need 7 by 6, I believe, or something like that. Look at the columns, look at how much data you have to put in there, and figure out how much you need. All right, when your table is in here, then you're going to type in the information, again, like that picture I showed you. All the way back over here on the previous assignment. So go back to the folder we're in. This assignment has the picture, this picture. So this is that data table you're making. You're going to type station, you're going to type mass before, mass after, all this stuff. Then you're going to type in your data into that data table. When you are done, that is your big data table. Then you're going to do a smaller data table for each section. So this is what you're going to do here. For each section, you have part 1, mass 1, you have data table, you have histogram, you have diagrams. Okay. So for part 1, we want our class data right here. Well, how do we get our class data? Well, go back here to our assignment, to the lab report assignment. So we've got the mass and change lab, and then we have the lab report for mass and change. So this is the lab report. So you click on here, and then you click right here where it says class data, and you will see a Google Excel sheet pop up faster than this, hopefully. And when you open it up, you need to make sure you go to the correct tab. So at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see first period, whatever period, all that stuff. You're going to click on your period data because every period had different data. Click on your period first, and then you're going to see the data. Let's get this to load. There we go. Okay, now we got it to load. Now something I realized I forgot to mention over here, when you're looking at your sample data right here and making your data table, notice I just have the mass before and the mass after. How did I figure out the mass change? Well, you have to subtract them, right? So that's going to be the change in mass. So that's how you figure that out there. And all that's going to be typed into your big data table. Okay, so now once you get in here to the class data, let's say go to third period, you need to make a data table for each station for all the group's data. So for station 1, group 1 had 0 change in mass, group 2 had 0.1 change in mass, group 3 had 0.1 change in mass, right? These are all what the different groups got for just this first station. So you're going to make a data table showing station 1, what group and what change in mass was it. So for example, this is 0.1.1, 0.4, 0.2. So we're going to go back over here, right? This was our group. This was group 1, group 2, group 3, right? And we're going to keep going down over here. And this was the mass change that we got. Group 1 had 0. I believe group 2 had, group 2 had 0.1, 0.1. Group 2 had 0.1, group 3 had 0.1. You're just going to keep going down like that. Once you fill this in, you're done with that section, that data table for that section. And you should capitalize group here, right? You capitalize the first word in every section. Okay. When you're done with that, you're going to do that for each section. So now you're going to come down here, you're going to make a new data table for part 2. You're going to click Insert, go up here, click Insert, Table. You're going to make your 2 by, 7, I think, data table. And you're going to insert it there, down here for the data table for part 2. And you're going to go back to your class data and do it again. But in this time, we're looking at station 2. We're going to look at our station 2 data. All of this. These are the numbers we put in. Once you have done that, then you're going to make your histogram, right? So we got to make a histogram. The histogram you have to draw on paper, and you have to actually take a picture and insert that up in there. So the way you're going to do that is I have here on the board exactly how you're going to set up your histogram. So a nice title, right? You're just going to change whatever we did for that station, but the title should be the same. It should be describing what we did in that section and what this data is about. You're going to put frequency here. You're going to set up your tick marks here, number them. You could go 1, 2, 3, 4. You could go 2, 4, 6. You're going to set the x-axis up the same, and you're going to label it as mass change. All right. Now, the only thing that's going to be different is your bars, right? So this is the final product of what you see when you're done, right? This is the histogram. This is the data table that you already typed out on your screen. For here, the way you figure out how tall your bar should be is you look at that data table for that section, right? The ones I just showed you how to make on there. So the ones that you typed out, right? The little small one. So you're going to say, okay, how many groups data was negative 0.2 or more? Well, if you look over here, you've got negative 2 here, and that's it. None of these are negative 0.2 or more, as in more negative. So only one group's data is. So how frequent was that? How often did it show up? Just one. So we're going to show that we had one group's data fall in there. How many groups data fell at negative 0.1? Just this one, right? Nobody else is negative 0.1. So again, we're going to show that we just have one for our bar here. How many groups data was 0 for this station? Well, we had 2 groups with 0 for this station. So we're going to come up to 2. Now this doesn't match what I just showed in the example because this is actually fake data. I just made this up, right? But you're going to actually use the data you made. So this and this should match. How many groups had 0.1 data? Well, we have no groups with 0.1 data. So we should not have a bar here. I'm just going to draw a line down here just to show that that's 0. This line should have already been here. I accidentally erased it. And then how many groups had 0.2 or more? Well, 0.3 is higher than 0.2. And so is 17. So we had 2 groups. This is really big. So we had 2 groups. So we're going to go up to 2 for this one as well. All right. Then we're going to neatly shade this in. You should use a ruler, make this nice and neat. If it's not neat, then you're going to lose points. Neat means your lines are straight, your bars are straight, everything is shaded in nicely, evenly. And that's good. Now you're going to take a picture of this on your paper, right? And you are going to upload it, get it to your computer. You can email it to yourself. You can upload it to your drive, whatever you have to do. And then you're going to click Insert, Image, and you're going to upload that picture. And when you upload it here, right under histogram, you'll be able to see it here. And that's just for this part 1. You're then going to do that again for part 2. Remember, you're going to have all your data tables already. Now you're going to make your histograms. So what I recommend you do is make all your histograms first on a piece of paper. Take a picture of each one separately. Make sure you change the title for whatever station you're doing that data for, and then you're going to upload it. All right. Okay, now we're going to talk real quickly. How do you do your purpose? Your purpose is what the purpose of the experiment was. So what were we comparing and why? We were looking at how the mass changed when we did different experiments to it. So your purpose should say something along those lines. It should have these words in it. Obviously, it should make sense. Then when you do your hypothesis, you need to say, okay, what do you think? Well, technically, you should have done this at the beginning. So hopefully you did. If not, you just got to kind of time travel, think back to what you would have thought would happen. But it should be an if-then statement. And it should be a prediction of what would happen to the mass. That was the data we were collecting. So you say, for example, part 1, we stretched out the steel wool. So it should say, if we stretched out the steel wool, then the mass will what? Increase, decrease, or remain the same. So back on your computer, all right, on your lab report, you've got all your data tables, you've got all your histograms for each part. So that's 6 data tables, 6 histograms, plus the big data table you put here of your individual data that you wrote out on your paper in here. So we're going to go up here to purpose. This is where you would type the purpose, what the point of the experiment was. Right here, this is where you type your if-then statement. If the mass, or if, oh, you might need to change which order we did this. Ice and water for us this year was second, steel wool was first. So you can just switch that to make it right. You would say, okay, so if, let's do the steel wool one. If we stretch the steel wool then the mass will increase. Or whatever you thought would happen, right? Or you may thought it would decrease, or you may thought it would remain the same. That's what you put there, all right? Remember, the point is not to be right. The point is of a hypothesis is to aim your focus of what you're looking for. All of these should have if. Start with the word if, blah, 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 whatever we did. Then what is your prediction about the mass? Okay, about the mass. Don't just say, oh, then it's going to get bigger. Or if we stretch the wool, then it turns green. No. What about the mass? What did you think would happen to the mass, right? That's what we're measuring.